Hi, this is Rachelle Scrapcraftastic, and I'm back to add an accessory to my altered composition notebook. I previously shared how to do the cover, how I customized the inside and added the closure. This is the closure, which when I'm using this, I kind of just keep it tied in the back like this, out of the way. I think the closure is a little too frou-frou for me. For everyday use, so I usually keep it like that. I did a little customization on the inside with the washi tape for my index pages that I haven't started. I've actually tipped in a calendar. This is a half letter printable. I put a sticker on for the month, but this is a half letter printable. And then, yeah, we'll talk about what's inside at a later date, but I have actually been using this. So, let me put my ollie clip back so I can keep my place. So that is what it looks like. It has the tab dividers there that I also added. I'll link to both of those videos in the description box below. So I'm going to set this aside for now, because we are going to be making something to go in, to be used with or go in the composition notebook. So in one of the previous videos, I mentioned that I didn't want pockets and extra things inside of the journal or the composition notebook because I didn't want the lumps and bumps. One way to get around the lumps and bumps, if you want to add pockets and other embellishments inside of your notebook, is to use a writing board. A writing board is basically a piece of chipboard or something thick that is a smooth, flat surface that you can stick under your page to write on. And I probably will start making them, since I make junk journals, to go inside of my junk journals. But we are going to make one today. All you need is some chipboard and glue and maybe a piece of scrapbook paper and an emery board or some type of sandpaper to file edges. You also would need some Mod Podge. There are a couple of different ways you can make a book board. You can do a wrap style, a half wrap style, or just a flat layered style. Today we're going to do a flat layered style because I think it is the smoothest. And with the flat layered style, you can use both sides of the writing board, so you're not limited to only using one side. Now I have chipboard here that was gifted to me. I had a big box of it, so I'm still working on that same box for years. But it's not really a heavyweight chipboard. It's fairly thin. So what I do, even when I'm using this to make journal covers, is I layer it up. So that is going to be our first step here. I would definitely suggest chipboard, not cardboard. Cardboard is corrugated and it will bend easily because of that. So chipboard will work best. If you don't have chipboard, you probably do and just don't know it. So like I have this chip box that I salvaged from the recycling, or salvaged before it went to recycling. This is chipboard. So pretty much all of the things that we have in the kitchen, if you got cereal boxes, pasta boxes, granola bar boxes, crackers, all sorts of things. So check your kitchen, check your recycling. I'm sure you have some chipboard. Even packaging from other items outside of the kitchen. The only thing is those are thinner, just like this, thinner. So you will probably need to layer it. So you'll need enough to layer it and for it to be the size that you need. Now, as far as sizing, these sheets are 10 by 10, these sheets of chipboard. My journal is 6 by 9, and you would want the writing board to be slightly smaller so that it can actually fit inside of the page. We'll talk about that a little more when we get to that. But for now, the main step is getting these glued together, and I'm going to glue 3 pieces together. I think that'll give me a very firm writing board with the glue added, and then once we also add the scrapbook paper. And I'm not sure if I'm going to use scrapbook paper or cardstock, but we'll see. I don't know. I may be able to get away with 2. So let's start with 2. and see how that goes. So I'm just going to use some PVA glue. I got this on Amazon. And a brush. Let's see, what brush do I want to use? I guess I'll use this one. Just a inexpensive brush. Not sure where I got that one from. I don't think that one's from the Dollar Tree. Is this one? That could be. I don't know. So I'm just going to cover this really well with glue, basically. And you could use your makeup, the silicone spatulas. I don't know. I've been finding lately that an actual brush works better to spread glue. It's more to clean up, but it does seem to spread nicer. See, we need a little more. And this is really not the way to do this, pouring it directly onto the chipboard, but all right, so that's layer one. You see it's buckling because of the water content in the glue, but we'll deal with that by placing these under some heavy scrapbook paper books. So I'm just pressing that down really well. Trying to get a really good stick, making sure that I have it as lined up as best as I can. This has glue on the outside. It's not going to really matter. All right, so now we're going to go here. Let's spread it out a little bit so that it'll be easier to spread instead of just one big glob in the middle. And if you don't have the PVA glue, you can do this whole thing with Mod Podge, because Mod Podge is also an adhesive. You want to make sure you get your edges really well. Let's go ahead and add layer 3. So not completely straight, but it's pretty good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I guess I could just use another silicone mat underneath, but what I'm going to do is wrap a piece of wax paper around it, and we may be able to use that piece of wax paper later in the process. And I'm going to wrap the wax paper around so that if any glue seeps out, it won't stick to the books that I'm going to put this in between. So I'm going to place this under some heavy books, and then once it's dry, we'll come back. All right, so the chipboard has dried. This is the wax paper that I wrapped it in. So when I first took this from in between, or from under the stack of scrapbook paper pads, it was flat. And I let it sit out for a little while, and it got a little curve to it. So I don't know why. This is just glue that seeped out, I guess. Anyway, that's another reason why I left it the full size, and I'm going to crop it after it's dried. So I'm going to save this wax paper. This is the wax paper from the Dollar Tree, so I don't know if this is the best quality. We're going to use this later, and I hope that it will work. The next thing I need to do is trim this down to size. I really need to get it flat again, but we're going to work with it the way it is. I don't know why it buckled up after I took it out of the pads. I let it dry overnight, so that shouldn't have been an issue. Okay, so when you're making a book board, it needs to be a little bit smaller than the book you're putting it in. So you can't measure from the outside. I trimmed this down to 6 by 9. I can't make a book board that's 6 by 9 because if I do, it's not going to fit inside of the notebook. So what I'm going to do is kind of get to the center, and then I have a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper that I folded in half. So this makes this 5.5 by 8.5. So since this is 6 by 9, that's about a 1/2 inch smaller on all around. Okay, so if I stick this in here and I pull a page over, that's going to be just about the right size for me to write on. So it's slightly smaller. You want it to fit in between the pages. So that's the size I'm going to go with, 5.5 by 8.5, even though the book is 6 by 9. So I'm going to go to the heavy duty paper trimmer. I think that's my best option. So I'll be cutting off those ragged edges. The glue doesn't really matter because that's going to be covered. But I'm going to trim it down and then we'll be back to do the next step. So here I'm using my heavy duty paper trimmer. I could have done this with a blade and a ruler, but again, I have the trimmer, so I'm going to use it. And I'm trimming off all 4 sides because, as I mentioned, I want clean edges. So I'm just trimming it down as best as I can, down to 5.5 by 8.5. So here we are with the trimmed piece. These are the offcuts. I was hoping they would be big enough to do something with, but I don't think they are. We shall see. So it still has the curve, which I don't like, but I don't want to bend it too much. I probably should have put something under the edge of this, but I didn't. And I also think I could have gotten away with 2 pieces and used cardstock to cover it, but I'm not using the cardstock that came with this collection, with the Petals and Bloom collection, because it is textured and I don't want the textured paper as a writing board, because that texture will be picked up. So I want a smooth paper, and since I made this so thick, I decided to go with actual scrapbook paper instead of cardstock. So this is the pad that I'm pulling from. It's a little well used. This is the Floral Shop from the Paper Studio, which is Hobby Lobby. I've had this for a few years. It has a copyright date of 2014, but I think I got this after that. But yeah, the copyright is 2014 on that. So these are the 2 papers that I chose. And again, it is paper, not cardstock, but it's a pretty decent weight paper. So what I'm going to do is actually glue this on. Just find this area that I want. I'm not going to try and line it up perfectly on the edge because I can easily trim it off. So what I'm going to do is use my glue stick. And I could use Fabri-Tac, but I just don't have good luck with spreading that very well. And I want to make sure that I cover every bit of this so I can see the glue stick on here. And I'm just going to put a liberal amount. This is the Scotch Create glue stick. Okay. So let's cover it well. You can use some other glue. I just don't want my paper to buckle and warp. So, let's get this edge really good. Gotta pay extra attention to the edges. All right. Now I probably need to put something heavy on this. I think I will. And let this sit for a while. Let's use these 3 paper pads. These are the paper pads that I recently picked up. If you want to see more about those, I will link to the video in iCard up above, so you can go check it out. Let's add this one for good measure. Let's let this dry a little bit and then we'll come back and put the paper on the other side. Okay, let's check to see how our progress is going. I actually put my punch on here to add a little bit more weight. Let's remove the paper pads. Let's see, I'm running out of space here. Okay. We'll need these again for the other side. All right. And this is what it looks like. It feels a little lumpy in there. Don't know why. So I'm just going to take my scissors. Well, should I tear it? I don't know. No, I'm not gonna tear it. I'm gonna cut it. It doesn't have to be cut exactly right, but it kind of helps if it is. That's a really ragged cut. You could probably use a blade and get a cleaner cut. Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. Is this peeling up already? Add a little art glitter glue in this corner. Okay, let's fix that area. Let's wipe off that excess. That's as clean as I'm gonna get it. Let's set scraps aside. Let's go on and glue down the other side. Now, after I use my glue stick to do this, I thought, oh wait, I could have used matte medium. So that is also an option. But let's stick with basic tools for this one. So I'm gonna do the other side. And then we'll let that dry and come back. I really wanted to get some of this pattern on there, this animal print. So let's do it that way. Okay. Add the glue again. I think we are good. Let's hit this corner again. All right, let's make sure we got the top on the top. Put the paper on. Yeah. And press that down. So I'm going to put this in a different location to dry, but I'm going to stack the paper pads on top of it, and then we will be back again for the next step. All right, so I am back, and this is what we have. Set that aside. I need to trim this down. I still got a little curve in here. I don't know how I'm going to get rid of that, but I'm just going to go ahead and trim this down. The curve makes it a little difficult to cut. Now you don't have to cut this exactly flush to the chipboard if you can't get it exactly flush. The main thing is you want to make sure that it's glued down well. And yeah, I just really made a mess with that. You could also tear this instead of cutting it. See, that's not cut very well. None of it is, but that's okay because we're going to take some sandpaper or old emery board and file away. I'm going to use this to catch the sanding bits. I'm going to file down those edges. And I'm filing away, not towards the board, but away from the board so that I don't accidentally pull up any paper, and so that my paper thins out around the edge and kind of gets flush with the chipboard on the edge. Hopefully that makes sense. That also helps sand off any extra paper that I wasn't able to cut off. Okay, so this block is falling apart. Here's another one. Let's try this side. You don't want anything too coarse or rough. You want a fine grit. Let me see how this is feeling. Then I'm going to do the other side, and as you can see, a little white is showing, but that's okay. We're going to work with that. If you're doing a vintage style, you can cover that with distress ink. And there's a few other things that you can do as well. Oh, I missed a piece. Let's get that off of there. And I pulled that up. I'll deal with it. So I've sanded it. I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and put a teeny bit of glue here, even though this next step would probably repair that. Let's hit it with a little bit of glue. I'm gonna get a mat, and we're gonna cover it with Mod Podge. So this is the matte Mod Podge. I got this bottle from Dollar Tree. It might be glued shut. So just take the whole lid off. I might have to open another bottle. But I'm going to put some on the mat. I'm going to use one of my silicone brushes and see how this goes. Okay, so let's try this. We're going to do both sides. A nice even thin coat. We're gonna let that side dry, and then I'll come back and do the other side. Okay, I turned on the fan next to me, so that is mostly dry. Let's go on and hit the other side. There's that side, gotta let that dry, and we'll be back. All right, so here we go, nice and dry, nice and smooth. Now, to finish off the edges, there are options. Let's see, I think they feel pretty smooth. I have some things that I have to choose from here. I'm not sure how well this one would work. This, I think, is from Dollar Tree. It says Craft Decor Chalk Writer, and I guess you can use this into, yeah. So it's like, this is what it looks like. But it does smear a little bit. I don't know how permanent it would be. This is like my scrap paper, but that's what that looks like. So I guess I should explain what I'm doing first. Around the edges, I want to treat the edges where I filed it and also hide the chipboard on the inside. So I'm going to use gold. You could use distress inks or oxide or whatever you use. I wanted to use some form of gold. So I had this marker. I have this metallic gold paint that I got from Walmart's. I'm not sure if I want to use that. I have this Winsor Newton gold metallic ink. It's separated, so it would need to be shaken very well. Here is another paint that I have from Walmart. This one has glitter. I'm not sure this one would work too well. It's just glitter. There's no color to it, just the glitter. And then I have this paste, this luster wax paste by Sizzix in gold. I think this one would probably work the best, but I kind of want to try this from Dollar Tree. Let's just test it out and see. I think this works. And then I want to take something dry, like a paper towel or a napkin or something, and buff it out just to make sure that it stays in place. Yeah. So I'm going to have to buff it, and I don't mind if some comes around the edge a little bit onto where we sanded. I think this was the less messy option. I think I like the way that worked pretty well. Kind of chops up the marker. I think that's really more like an oil pastel, I think. Now I could splatter this with the gold ink. There's so many things I could do. They would be flat things, but this is basically the writing board. Now there's another step. I could leave it here, or I could put the wax covering over it. And what that involves is taking the wax paper, putting some towels or a cloth over it, and ironing on the wax. So I'm going to do that and try to bring you along with me to the ironing board to do that. But yeah, you could stop here. I've also seen them with book corners. I kind of feel like the book corners defeat the purpose. I understand it, but I also feel like it defeats the purpose. So, I mean, but yeah, you could put book corners on. You could actually punch a hole here. Again, something that might defeat the purpose, but punch a hole on one side, put an eyelet in and hang a charm. You could put a decorative trim on one edge. I think putting things on the edge on one side is less intrusive than the book corners would be, even though the book corners will look really nice. All right, so let's go to the ironing board. I'm gonna try and stay in frame. Okay, so I tried the wax thing and that did not work for me. I don't know if it is the wax paper that I'm using or what, but it stuck completely to the board. I can't get it off. So now there's like this haze in here. I've actually torn a few places trying to get it off. So I don't know what to do. I have one solution, well, two. I could probably sand it off, but I don't know how that will affect the design on the paper. So I'm a little hesitant to do that. The other option is to cover it. So that will make the book board even stronger. I can cover it, go over it one more time with the Mod Podge and call it good. Now again, I don't know why ironing the wax paper on and peeling it off didn't work for me. Maybe I need to try a higher end wax paper. I don't know. But so to recover from that mistake, I am going to cover this. So what am I going to cover it with? I could cover it with the same design actually. And maybe I need to sand this little area here down. Let me see what happens if I do that. Because there's a little lumpy right there. And actually, I'm going to sand the whole thing. This is how you can recover from mistakes. Okay, so since it is ruined, I'm going to cover it again with this paper. This is the leftover paper. I was trying to figure out which end is up. So here we go. Let's do this again. I'm going to use PVA glue. And I guess I'll use the same silicone spatula. Hopefully it spreads as well as the brush did. I could probably just hit this with another layer of Mod Podge. I need to let this dry, and then we'll come back, file the edges one more time, and add the coat of Mod Podge. Let's clean this area up. I'll be back. All right, so it's pretty dry now. Let's go over it once again with a coat of Mod Podge. Hopefully I have enough left in here to make that work. Put the card up now. We have one corner that's lifting a little bit, so let's glue that down. Let me check the edges and see if I need to do any sanding. Again, I think I cut it pretty well, so I'm not gonna sand. Well, let me see. I don't really want to sand too much because it's still a little tacky, so I don't really want to make a mess. Another mess. We just hit it a little bit, and then I'll go back over it again with the gold, and we should be good. It's a nice finish. I guess I don't really need the wax finish on it. Maybe I'll get some beeswax and try it with that one day instead of the wax paper. Because I will be making more of these, not necessarily for my composition notebooks, but for journals. And I'll be trying different methods of making them. Let me know if you would like to see that, or if you would rather see me do that along with making journals on my other channel. Buff that out. I am going to leave this as is without book corners or anything like that. Let's move this out of the way. And there is the book board. So let's test it out in the journal. So I have been keeping my composition notebook in this Lockbee. I need to loosen this up. I have it really, really tight because I don't have the composition notebook on an elastic. It's a little too big for this. This is sized for A5 or half letter will work, but this is where I've been keeping it. I don't know. I just like things to be covered up. So this is what it's looking like. And let's see. I can put this in here like so, and right on it. It might be a little too thick, maybe. So let's see. It works. It works. This side is still a little tacky. It's still got a little bit of a curve. It may be a little thick for this. I don't know. I can just store it right here in the back. I don't really want to put it in the pocket because it's still a little tacky. But yep, it'll fit nicely right there. I can close it and it's in there. Of course, I got the ties there to hold everything tight together. and I just keep it in my Lockbee cover. So that works. All right, so there we have it, the writing board for my composition notebook. Let me know what you think, how you think it turned out. I think it's great. It's really nice considering I had a little snafu there. It came out great. So let me know in the comments, will you be making your own writing boards? And if you post on social media, Threads, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, please tag me because I would love to see what you make. If you're in the Facebook group and you make one, definitely tag me. When you post something in the Facebook group and you want to make sure that I see it, please tag me. And I'm going to start sharing some of the projects that I see, whether it's a planner spread or different DIY projects. I'll be sharing some of those on the channel. So if you would like your project, your planner spreads shared, always tag me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and you may be interested in this other video. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.